Hi, warriors. This is Jalen, my legal warrior. And today we have EUKETA Oliver on our series, No Lives Matter Unless. For the past 15 years, EUKETA Oliver has been employed as a deputy public defender with the San Diego County Office of the Primary Public Defender. Her practice has focused on representing indigent individuals in their criminal and appellate matters. In addition to her law degree, she holds a MA in counseling psychology. She is the current president of the Earl B. Gilliam Bar Foundation, co-chair of Lawyers Club of San Diego Diverse Women's Committee, and a member of the San Diego County Bar Association Bench Bar Committee. Throughout the years, EUKETA has taught at the California Public Defenders Association basic trial skills training and has been an attorney coach for the Bonita High School for the high school mock trial competition. In her spare time, she enjoys running, traveling, and spending time with her family and friends. Thank you so much, EUKETA, for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited to hear your responses to some of my questions for this morning. And I'll just get right into it. My first one is, how are you using your business and or socioeconomic status to fight against systemic racism?
Well, as a deputy public defender, I have spent the past 15 years fighting up against those issues within the criminal justice system. As you mentioned, I have spent my career representing indigent individuals, and those individuals have come from very diverse backgrounds. In that representation, I have seen my clients come up against racism. I have not only seen my clients come up against racism, but I have seen my colleagues, and I myself have experienced racism both inside and outside of the court by various different parties. It's important for me to recognize that that does happen, but to not let it deter me from representing my clients, because my clients' lives definitely, absolutely rely on my ability. On a daily basis, I have the privilege of ensuring that my clients' constitutional rights, that they are protected. And I do that in a gamut of ways, whether it be through motions, through trial, through my negotiations, different things of that nature. But when I fight for my clients' individual constitutional rights, I'm not only fighting to protect their rights, I'm fighting to protect the rights of society as well. And so most people don't realize that when we go to court and say there is a suppression motion because we are challenging an officer's conduct, we're saying that he violated the law in how he treated someone, how he or she obtained evidence or something of that nature, how they and why they stopped an individual. When we fight for that individual client, we are, and if we are successful, we are precluding law enforcement from doing that, from taking those actions against others. And so, so again, when we fight for our individual clients, we're also fighting to protect the constitutional rights of everyone. And so an example of that would be if an officer were to stop someone in what they designate a high crime area. And really a high crime area, these are areas where working, like good, hard working people live. Families live there, people, they go to work and they just want what everyone else wants, which is just a nice life. But they may have had, certain crimes occur in that particular area. Officers in the past have designated those to be high crime areas and have used that as a way of stopping an individual, whether they be on foot, in car, on bicycle, or whatever. But usually in these quote unquote high crime areas, these are areas where they are predominantly minority. So minorities are the ones that primarily live in these particular areas. And so when you think about it that way, they're the ones who are going to get stopped more. They're the ones who are going to come into contact with law enforcement more. They're the ones that are more subject to arrest, more subject to being prosecuted, more subject to being placed in the criminal justice system. So one of the things that I do as a public defender is I fight against the notion that these areas where people live, families live, that they are high crime areas, to try to fight against that particular stereotype so that people can walk about, live about, move about their communities peacefully and freely. So that is one of the things that I do. I also, in my negotiations, help try to fight against racial injustice and social injustice by talking to the prosecutor and talking to the court about my client. Oftentimes, when a person is charged with a crime, people look at the person, people look at the crime, and then they make certain judgments. My job is to educate them about who my client is so that they actually see them. Because there's a difference between looking at someone and actually seeing that person for who they are, seeing them for the struggles that they may be going through, understanding, a reason, not making an excuse, but understanding a reason why a certain action may have happened, and trying to work together collaboratively so that we can make sure or help ensure that this person is given a chance so that they can rehabilitate themselves, not recidivate, and actually be the productive member of society that we all know that they can. And that comes from actually getting to know my client, getting to know their situation, and educating others about who that person is. Because again, if you can actually see the person and not just look at them, it makes a huge difference. I come across cases where clients are charged with crimes against law enforcement officers. And when I look at those cases and evaluate those cases, I not only look at the alleged conduct of my client, I also examine the conduct of the officer and try to make a determination whether or not the officer was excessive in their force and in their manners and in their actions towards my client. And that is a very important aspect of my job, because as we've seen recently with the protests regarding Black Lives Matters, there are certain officers, and I'm not saying this is all officers, this is all law enforcement. No one is saying that. I think we can pretty much agree that we're talking about a few individuals who are giving law enforcement as a whole a bad name. These individuals, we look at their actions and make sure that whatever force they're using, whatever treatment that they are using against a client, that it is within the bounds of the law, and it's not excessive and it's not too much. And again, that goes right hand in hand with what is going on and what is being spoke against right now with the Black Lives Matter movement. And that's why myself and members of my office, we, along with federal defenders, we actually marched and had a protest in support of Black Lives Matters, because Black lives do matter. And the idea behind it is, that our lives matter too. And we should be given the same consideration, the same treatment, the same courtesies as everyone else. It shouldn't be that because someone is African American or another person of color, that an automatic aggressive stance should be taken against them. And so those are the things that we have seen, that I have seen personally, and those are the things that I fight against every day in my practice. And again, not saying that it's all law enforcement, because it's not, but it is something to be aware of, because it is something that is plaguing our society, but hopefully something that will change given the recent attention to it.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot. And I'm commending you for your efforts. It sounds like you're effectuating a positive change every single day, and not only just in your career, but even on your kind of like in volunteer time, not necessarily for your job. So that's absolutely amazing. And I think I want to just get into the next question, which is what impact does communication play in addressing social justice issues?
I think communication is key, because that is how we learn from one another. That's how we share our different perspectives and our different ideas. I think what happens is things often get lost in communication. And I think one of the reasons is because we're not communicating effectively. And there are certain key things that I think people need to keep in mind when they are communicating, especially emotional issues such as racial and social injustice. A lot of people think that communication is just merely them talking and trying to get their point across. And but one of the biggest parts of communication is actually listening. It's listening to the other person's perspective, and is actually taking the time to digest and analyze what the person is saying, to trying to gain an understanding of their perspective. Not saying that you have to agree with it, but at least being open to consider their point of view, because everyone comes from a different background. Everyone has experienced life traumas, various situations in different ways that has and impacted who they are and why they believe what they believe. And so just being open and not dismissive to someone's point of view, letting the other person know that they are heard and that their words actually matter. If you give those things, then most of the time those things are given back to you. And you oftentimes see that although you may not agree on every point, sometimes there are enough similarities to where you can come together on certain issues, on certain points, and it makes collaboration it makes it a lot better, a lot easier to work with people. So I would say that communication is key. It plays a huge role. It's probably one of the biggest things, and it's one of the biggest things that we probably fail at the most. Another part in that is also when something has been pointed out to you, trying not to take it personally, but being open. And when you've had a chance to do that, if you see that maybe you've made a mistake, you've handled a situation, wrong, or you could have handled it better, actually owning up to it. There's nothing more powerful than a sincere apology.
So if our viewership wanted to get a hold of you to further the discussion or to get involved in any of these nonprofits that you are a part of, how can they do that?
You can reach me at 619-338-4741. That's my direct number at the Public Defender's Office, or you can email me, and that is EUKETA.OLI, V as in Victor, ER, at sdcounty.ca.gov.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for educating us, inspiring us, and empowering us to get involved and to continue the discussion and to be wary of our communication through these times. And yeah, I definitely appreciate you appearing today. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.